My name is Firefighter Mickey. We're here today at Fire Station 62. I'm really excited to give you guys a station tour.
Hey, Mickey, I had a couple questions that Mr. Wolf passed on to us, and some of his students are dying to know. One is, how long have you been a firefighter? That was Isaac. He asked that question.
Well, Isaac, that's a great question. I've been a firefighter here for 7 years before getting hired here. I was a volunteer firefighter for a few years in Skyway.
Great. And Max wanted to know, how did your career start?
Well, Max, my career started sorry, can you leave that one?
Oh, it's live. Keep going.
Live? Okay.
Yeah.
My career started about 9 years ago, but it started because I was involved in a really bad car accident when I was a kid and I got burned.
And we'll talk more about that later, maybe?
Yeah.
Thank you. And boys and girls, I'm just going to interrupt here. You're probably wondering who's this other man's voice that we're hearing. This is Lieutenant Lowell, who is actually one of our tours. He's going to be our tour guides today. He's going to be our cameraman. So if you hear this other voice out there, that's who you're hearing, Lieutenant Lowell.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And another question for Mickey. One of the questions is what kind of job do you have here at Station 62? What do you do?
Well, I'm a firefighter engineer, so my job is that I drive that big fire engine. So I got promoted a few years ago. Before that, I was just a firefighter, which means that I was riding in the back seat, and then whenever we had a fire, I would just pull hose and stuff. But as of a few years ago, I now get to drive that fire engine on any calls that we go on, and I get to pump those lines.
Great. So what are we going to do in the next half hour or so? What's our time? What are we going to do?
So today we're going to do a station tour. You guys are going to get to see exactly how we live, kind of how our shift life looks like. And then we're also going to do a tour of the fire engine so you guys get to see what it looks like on the inside.
Great. And some more questions from the students.
Yeah, we're really excited to answer some of your questions. So we're really looking forward to that.
All right. Well, let's, before we go to our first stop at the apparatus bay, Mr. Wolf, do you have any other questions about just introductory questions or something you'd like to ask Mickey?
No, I mean, you guys sound like you're ready to go, and I just wanted to, before we started, I should have said thank you, because I know you guys are busy, you're first responders. Our class has been really talking a lot about first responders, so we just want to thank you so much for taking the time today to do this with us.
Yeah, no problem, we're excited. All right, well, let's go ahead and go check out the station. So right here that's the engine that I drive, that's engine 62, and then we have our backup engine. So that means that if this engine goes out for any reason, maybe it breaks down or Tabby just needs a little bit of maintenance, we have another engine that we can put into service in its place. We also have an aid car out of the station, and we also have the battalion chief, and this is our only battalion chief in our South King Fire Rescue.
Mickey, what is a battalion chief?
So a battalion chief, he runs our district. So if we get like a big fire, maybe a really big motorcycle accident or anything like that, he shows up and he's like our leader. So that's his role is to take command over those big incidents.
Yeah.
Right. So this is our firefighter gear. This is where we store it when we're not on shift. And every shift has their own hangars.
Well, Mickey, one of the students wanted to know, Perla wanted to know, how many layers does a firefighter jacket have?
That is a great question. So a firefighter jacket has 3 layers. So you can actually take a look at this one. So we have an outer shell, which is going to help repel water, things like that. We have a moisture barrier, which is this. And then we have a thermal barrier, which is this. And this is like your oven gloves, right? You know how you can take something out of the oven and not burn your hands? That's essentially what this is. So it'll keep us from getting burned when we're in a fire, things like that.
Great. Mm-hmm. Well, how about...
Thank you.
Do you have any questions about our... do you know if any of your students have any more questions about our firefighter gear?
Let me look. We had so many kids participate. They were excited to hear about this.
I think one of the questions was, does it get hot? And I'm not sure.
Yes. I think you're right.
I'm not sure who asked that question, but Mickey, does it get hot when you wear that gear?
That's a great question. So not only does this gear keep heat out, but unfortunately on really hot days and stuff, it also keeps heat in. So it's you get hot pretty quickly. So it definitely does get hot on the inside.
Great. So why don't we continue the tour to the bunk room?
A bunk room? Okay. All right, let's go over this way.
And
So it's a lot like when you're at home, you guys have beds that you sleep in, you've got bathrooms at your house, showers. It's a lot like what we have because we work 24-hour shifts, so we need to sleep, we need to take showers and stuff. So this is our home away from home, and it looks a lot like yours. So we have lockers. This is where we keep all of our clothes and stuff. Maybe we go on a call and we get dirty or something. We have spare clothes that we can change into.
And Mickey, Ethan wanted to know, do you sometimes have to sleep here? Or are these just for the day?
That's a great question, Ethan. We work 24-hour shifts. So we sleep at night unless we get a call. So we sleep 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then obviously we're always on call. So it doesn't matter if somebody's having an issue 2 in the morning, we get up and then we go take care of that call. So when we can sleep, we do. If we're running calls, then we sometimes don't, especially at the station. It's a very busy station.
That was good. You also answered the question because one of the students asked how many hours you work. So you're 24 hours.
We work 24 hours and sometimes, pretty rarely, but we'll get a really big call or maybe we'll get a call when we're coming off shift. And in that case, we have to stay at work. So we either come back from that late call or we stay on that, maybe it's a big fire, and then we just stay until it's done and we come back late. So it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So.
Well, Mr. Wolf, we're about to head out of the bunk room. Do you have any questions about the living quarters or anything like that?
no, I think, did you pop the camera into one of the actual rooms there, Lieutenant Lowen?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. Is this where you're sleeping today?
Yeah, this is where I sleep. So we just have a bed. We got a little desk and a chair. Pretty simple. And then we also have these little lights in here. So I'm on the engine, so I flip it up to engine because we also have an aid car out of here. And then now, anytime we get an engine call, the lights in this room will come on when I'm sleeping. If I'm on the aid car, then I have to turn this down. Then now the lights will only come on when the aid car gets a call.
Would you?
Mickey, does that mean that light comes on the switch or all the lights in the room come on?
Well, we actually have a few different lights that light up because it used to be all the lights would come on at one time, but they found that really elevated stress levels in firefighters. And so now they kind of come on in two different, within like 5 seconds, different levels, and they found that it's easier for firefighters to wake up and kind of better on their systems.
That's very cool that they took the time to study that. I'm sure I can't even imagine the kind of stress under that kind of job.
Well, and Noah, Mr. Wolf, Noah wanted to know what was one of those stressful times as a firefighter for you?
Yeah, he did.
Good question, Noah.
Yeah, well, Noah, I would say some of the most stressful times in this job tend to be when we're very busy during the day. Maybe we've run a lot of fires or just a lot of calls and it's 10 o'clock and we go to sleep. And then within 30 minutes or an hour, we get another big call, another big fire. Maybe there's a rescue, maybe a CPR. And it's difficult because you're tired. You have to wake up and be ready to perform those times.
Good. You know, I forgot this question. We should have started near the beginning with this, but Zayden wanted to know, can a girl be a firefighter?
Oh, Zayden, that is a great question. And yes, a girl can be a firefighter. And not just a girl, but really anyone can be a firefighter as long as you just, stay in school. You got to graduate high school in order to even apply here. So yeah, get good grades and stay out of trouble.
Great. Well, why don't we finish this tour and we'll head out back to the app bay before we go.
Thank you. While we're walking, actually, I could ask, since it's kind of related to your time in the room there, would you say that happens pretty much every night then that you're with
Did we get a call?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty busy station, so frequently, yes. Yeah. On the aid car, pretty much sure you're going to get a few calls.
So that downtime when you get home is really important to kind of get that rest you need, right?
Can't hear me.
He just said that the downtime and rest is really important.
Yeah, it is really important, and sometimes we don't get it. So, take a nap off shift or something like that.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
So, where are we going to next? What's?
Well, I'll go ahead and show you the different types of washing machines we have. So this one is for bunker gear. So you have to put our bunker gear in a special washing machine because in fires they get contaminated, which means when things catch on fire, they put off smoke and gases that have things that are unhealthy for us. So we want to keep that separate from the rest of our stuff. So this is where our bunker gear goes.
Lieutenant Lowen?
Yes.
We're just having a little difficulty. The sound got a little garbled there for a moment. I don't know if it was where your finger was or.
Yeah. So students, you may not have heard it, but it might have been hard for you to hear because every time the engine or the aid car goes out, it turns on a fan to suck up all the exhaust. So that's a really loud noise. So it's going on right now, but it'll stop pretty soon. So.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
That is a huge washing machine you just showed us.
Yeah, it is a big washing machine.
And in this room, this is where we do a lot of our reports and stuff like that. This is firefighter Bellinghausen. He's my officer today.
How's it going?
Morning.
We also do training in here and different assignments.
Well, another one of the questions, let's head to the next room. Another one of the questions, and let me make sure I get the person's name right, was how much exercise do you get each day? And I believe their name was Aslan. Is that right, Mr. Wolf?
Aslan, yeah.
Aslan, okay, great. So we actually, again, we got somebody working out right now. We get 90 minutes allotted. That doesn't mean that we always get 90 minutes to work out. So we have calls, we get busy and stuff like that. But this is where we work out. We got treadmills, weights, things like that.
Hello, probationary firefighter Peterson. How are you? Can you say hello? Can you say hello, third graders?
Hey.
Great. So that brings up another question. One of the questions was, and I believe Nika answered this question, asked this question, Mr. Wolf. Nika wanted to know how many people are at your firehouse.
So we have 6 people out of this fire station. Kind of depends on what fire station you're at, but here we have 1 person on the battalion chief rig, 2 people on the aid, and then 3 people assigned to the engine.
Okay. All right. Well, and there's some people over there right now. What are they doing?
So they're doing a rig check. So every shift, we have to go through all the equipment. Because this fire engine's job is to rescue people, we have to make sure that every piece of equipment is ready to go in case a rescue comes in.
Why do they have those masks on?
Well, they have the masks on because of coronavirus. So we're trying to keep that from spreading in case somebody gets it at the station and doesn't know they have it. We all want to be safe, and we want to make sure that we're there for this community and not be spreading it around the station.
Good. I bet you it's been hard for the students to stay at home, hasn't it? Am I right, Mr. Wolf?
Oh, yeah. It's been very challenging for them, and they certainly miss each other and just the interaction and strange experience. And we've been out of school actually since March 10th. We had a case at our school. We closed a little earlier than some of the other schools. So, yeah. So these kind of things are fantastic. So thanks for giving us an opportunity of something we wouldn't be able to have done at this time.
Good. Well, we have a couple more stops. So where are we headed to next, Mickey?
So we're headed to the kitchen. So just like your house, we have a kitchen here. This is kind of where we make breakfast and lunch, and then dinners, we typically will all cook together. So we do a group dinner, and then breakfast and lunch is kind of on our own and what we feel like eating. So we call this area the beanery. And around this table is where every morning we talk and we do a thing called tie-in. That means that maybe the off-going shift says, hey, we saw this person at this address. We know that if we go to that same address for the oncoming shift, we know that there may be more issues or things like that. So we just talk about the calls that we ran, and maybe sometimes, like yesterday, they actually had a fire. So I went ahead and went over the rig, and I looked at all the stuff that they pulled. just to make sure they didn't forget anything or certain things weren't left open. So it helps us to know exactly what to zoom in on.
That communication then really important.
Yeah. So this is our kitchen, pretty big kitchen. We have shift refrigerators. So that's where we can keep our food when we're on shift. And just really big ovens and big stove. And then we have little food cubbies over there.
Great. Now, this isn't related to the beanery, but Ellie wanted to know, do we have a fire dog at this firehouse?
Well, Ellie, I wish that we did. We don't. That was a long time ago. Every firehouse pretty much had a dog, and that was when fire engines were pulled by horses. And their job was to just scare off stray dogs and stuff like that. So that's why they had dogs. But since we have fire engines now that run on diesel, we don't have to worry about dogs kind of chasing horses and things like that.
Oh,
Great.
I didn't know that either. That was a great question.
Well,
and really big oven there, and it looks like you even have more than one refrigerator in there.
Yep, we got 4 refrigerators. Every shift has an assigned refrigerator.
Great. We know there's a question that Courtney asked, and what she wanted to know was, so Courtney asked this question, how old do you have to be a firefighter? Is there an age limit?
Yeah, so, well, Courtney, it depends on what department is hiring. Typically the age cutoff is to apply is going to be 21. And then in some departments, especially volunteer departments, you can be 18 and you can apply.
Great. Well, Mr. Wolf, do you have any questions about the beanery?
Why is it called the beanery?
That's a great question, and I don't really know the answer to that.
Maybe because of beans? I don't know. It's a tradition.
Probably because some shift a long time ago made a lot of bean food, so they just.
Oh, that makes sense because we always think of chili when we think of fire.
Yeah.
May I ask? And you may have said this. I apologize. Did you talk about the shifts? I know you talked about one shift talks to another shift to kind of clarify what happened, but did you talk about why you have your own refrigerator and how does that work as a shift? Do they ever mix? Do the shifts ever mix? Different people move between shifts or?
Yeah, I mean, typically, if I were to work an A shift, I still keep my food in the C shift fridge just because they get packed otherwise. And it's okay. It's not like a hard and fast rule. I mean, we have this thing, it's called house fund. So there are certain things that, like ketchup, that are always at a station that aren't assigned to a particular shift, right? They're assigned to the station. So that's in the A shift.
There's a lot of food or a lot of condiments.
Yeah. And if I put my food in here, like the A shift, they're not going to get mad at me, if I'm working A shift. It's not like that. But I mean, it's just a general to keep our fridges from getting overwhelmed.
So did you bring lunch today?
I did bring lunch.
Well, show us your lunch.
Show us your. Okay.
You weren't planning on this, were you?
No, it's great. You know what? I'm happy.
I see leftovers in there.
Yeah, we also keep leftovers in here and stuff like that. So I brought street tacos because you can never go wrong with street tacos. And if we get busy, it's really easy to cook and you can stop mid-cooking. So I brought some street tacos and stuff for that.
Awesome. Do you know what you're having for dinner tonight?
I don't. We haven't decided yet.
Okay.
So, but something else.
You guys all have that together?
No, lunch we have separately. So we bring our own lunch. And then dinner we cook it all together. What's
your favorite firehouse meal?
I would have to go ginger chicken. Ginger chicken, can't go wrong with that. So it's simple, it's easy, it's good. So.
Oh, you guys eat really well. That sounds fancy.
Yeah.
What's behind you? What are these chairs for? These couches and there's no couches, but what are the chairs?
The chairs.
Yeah.
So these chairs are when we're done with dinner and stuff like that. Sometimes we just sit down, we relax, or some people read. Some people just get on their computer and do stuff on their computer, and others watch TV.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, we're going to head to our next stop, and that's the battalion chief's office.
All right. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the battalion chief as you head there.
So the battalion chief, as I said earlier, he's a chief over the entire district. So anytime anything big comes in, maybe even somebody gets hurt at work. So it's his job to make sure that everything is taken care of and everything is under control. So this is his office. And he's got a lot of computers. And typically he even has more screens up than this. So he can kind of see right here. He can keep an eye on all the rigs that are going out. Maybe if there's a really big fire, sometimes we'll have a battalion chief come in off shift, and then they'll look at this and they'll see what rigs are out. And depending on if there's an area where there's a lot of rigs that are out, he might choose to take a rig that's maybe in a different, maybe an Auburn fire department engine or something, and then move it to a certain South King fire engine so that area is still covered, even though there's a fire going on. That way, if another fire comes in, they have an engine close by. So, and we have screens. We have.
What's
maps.
that behind you? What's that?
So this is a map. So these are all labeled for different departments. And then this is Tacoma. So this is where you guys are at.
13. Yep. So, Mr. Wolf, I think your class is on North I Street. Is that right?
Yeah, we're off of Yakima and I.
And so, Mickey, point to where this station is.
So this station is right here.
Okay, 62.
Okay. So
Right.
you're just across Commencement Bay.
That's right. That's right. Well, this is not very exciting, the battalion chief office, but what is next is exciting. Third graders is what really exciting. And Mickey likes doing this. But there was a question, and I want to go through my list of questions. Third graders, you asked such incredibly good questions. We're not going to be able to get to everybody's question, but we're going to try to do our best to get as many as we can.
Thank
So if
you.
you look at that sign, Mickey's going to read what that sign says. The stop.
Stop. Only trained firefighters are allowed to use this pole, and it's by order of admin.
So that means, and I can't find the person's name, but one of the questions was about the fire pole. So this was a great question. And so Mickey's going to slide down the fire pole.
I am. We'll see if this locks thing. So I just hold these doors open, wrap my legs around, and then slide down.
Nice.
Okay, and that's the fire pole. So I'm walking back down the stairs to meet up with Mickey, and that all we have really next is to talk about the engine. Is that right?
Yeah, so the engine is one of my favorite parts. So this is the fire engine. This is what I drive. I think we had some questions about the fire engine.
Lots of questions about the fire engine and the equipment. Mr. Wolf, if you could take a look at some of the questions, I can also ask some questions so that we get as many of the questions as we can from your third graders there, because there are really good questions. And like I said, we can't get them all, but we're hoping to get as many as we can. One of the questions I thought that was good was, what is your favorite tool?
So my favorite tool in the fire engine, I think that would have to be the irons. The reason why I like the irons is because let's say we ended up.
Whoa! What are irons? Something they do you do your clothes?
That's fun. Yeah, no, not quite. But thanks for asking. It's actually a little bit different. It's pretty heavy, or it's heavier than. Now with these things, if we come to your house or something and it's on fire, and maybe you locked your front door and we need to get in quick, we have these guys. You can use them for more things than that, but these are the irons. So we can use this to break down your door pretty easy and pretty quickly.
What are they? There's two tools there.
Yeah, so all right. So this is called a Halligan bar. So this is what we put inside the door before we bust it down. This is an axe, and this is what we use to force the Halligan into the door so that we can open it. So,
Neat. Do you have other equipment on the rig that you really like or that you think is important?
I think one of the students asked what's the most important tool on the rig.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the most important tool on the rig are the people that sit in these seats. So it's going to be the firefighters, because they're going to be the ones that problem solve things, stuff like that. After that, I would probably say that the AED is the most important tool. And an AED is something that we use if you have a heart attack, maybe your heart's not beating correctly. You can put this on you, and sometimes we're able to get that to beat normally again. So this is the AED, and this little machine saves way more lives, adults and children, than this fire engine does.
Have you ever? Oh, I'm sorry. Have one of the students asked if you have ever saved a life or been a part of that?
I've pulled people alive outside of buildings that were on fire, but they ended up still passing away in the end because it's just smoke inhalation and stuff like that. But I've pulled live people out, but I've never had anybody survive after that.
How about with an AED?
With an AED, we probably save, this AED probably saves, gosh, more than 10 people a month, more than 10 lives a month.
Oh,
and then this fire engine pumping a fire probably saves, it would probably save, I don't know if Lowen can answer this also, but maybe 3 people in its career.
Yeah.
Actually pumping up a fire, maybe, and that's the high end. That's a very high number. Maybe even this one might even just save 1 or none. So, but this thing saves quite a bit.
Great. Mr. Wolf, do you have any questions?
I'll just shoot a couple different questions that I saw in there. Keaton wanted to know, Firefighter Mickey, what type of fire is hardest to put out and why?
I would say the hardest fires to put out are fires that are deep-seated, which means that maybe we had house fire and then it collapsed, and now that fire is underneath all that roofing material, or maybe, that second floor has got a couple floors that have caved in on it. And trying to get to that fire is really difficult.
After stuff has started falling in?
Yeah.
Is that what I understood? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
And then, so that question was from Eric, and that was the one about what was the most important tool you use. While we're at the fire truck, a lot of questions, like Lily asked, how much water is in the fire truck? And then I know Ocean also asked, how much water can the truck hold? So kind of the same question. Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, so this fire engine holds 500 gallons of water. That's a lot of water. And that is, if we get a house fire, that 500 gallons is going to put out most of them. Once we use up that 500 gallons, and even while we're maybe working on that fire and not haven't completely used up our entire tank yet, we're going to hook up to a fire hydrant, and that's going to give us an infinite amount of water.
Good question.
And let's see here. Let's see. I know you talked about you were talking about your uniforms earlier, or your equipment, your gear that you have to wear. One of them was, where was it here? Like, how much did it weigh? I don't know that you said that.
Yeah, so all this gear weighs about 35 pounds when it's dry. If we get it wet at all, it goes way up. So it's a lot heavier. And then if we add a pack, which is going to be our air pack, so we can go to a fire and still breathe. And then we have a tool. You're looking at like 90 pounds.
Could you show us?
Yeah, that was from Finn. Finn wanted to know how heavy is the coat. So about 90 pounds once you have it.
The coat itself is probably, 5-10 pounds dry.
Oh, okay.
As you get it wet, you're on a fire and stuff like that, it gets heavier.
And then all the gear added up with the bunker pants and the coat and the helmet and the pack and all your tools and equipment. It can get heavy. But I was going to ask, if it's okay with you, as you're looking at some more questions, Mr. Wolf, if I could have Firefighter Mickey put on her mask.
Yeah, there was a question about the mask, and while she's doing that, Emmett wants to know, kind of goes with that, how long does it take to get the uniform on for the fire, or all your equipment?
Yeah, so Emmett wanted to know Yeah, was that Emmett, Mr. Wolf, who asked that
Yeah.
question?
Yes.
He wanted to know how long it takes to put all of your equipment on and get ready.
Well, it takes about, we try to get out of the bay between like 1 minute to 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Fast.
So,
Yeah. That goes
Bobby-
on fast.
Bobby wanted to know, does it ever get hot inside your suit? And I think you kind of alluded to that earlier, but
yeah, it does get hot. Not only does our suit keep that heat from the fire out, but it also keeps the heat in. So it does get hot.
thank you.
So Ellie wanted to know, why is the fire truck red? You know that? Why?
Well, the fire truck is red just for visibility, because it's a little bit easier to see red than some other colors, maybe the blue or something like that. And then when we pull it behind people, it's a lot more visible than those other colors.
Cool.
So easier to see. Okay.
Yeah, and I see that Cam had a question about a ladder. And so let's walk around and look at the ladder. Cam wanted to know, how long is our ladder?
Well, we have a couple ladders on this rig. These ones are going to be for fires that we're looking at. And for the one on
Why don't we walk up and we'll look up from there.
Hey, while firefighter Mickey's up there, I know you went down the pole. That where was it? Oh, Bailiff wanted to know, is it fun sliding down the pole?
That was Bayla?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to know, was it fun sliding down the pole?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love sliding down that pole. I do all the time.
Nice. Thanks.
So how long are these ladders?
So this one right here is a 24-foot ladder, and it's an extension ladder, which means that it's connected to this. So this thing will extend pretty high. And then underneath that, it's called a 14-foot roof ladder. So sometimes we'll put these on roofs. We can also put them into buildings if we need to, but they have these hooks so we can get them around the top of the roof.
Oh,
Good question.
Connect to it.
Great. So how's the view from up there?
Oh, great.
And so this is where you are on the pump panel. Can you talk a little bit about the pump panel?
So this is the pump panel. If we get a fire, I come straight to here. And in order to get that water that we have into these hoses right here, there's some levers that I have to pull and some things that I have to do. It doesn't just immediately do that. So I just make sure that I pull this lever, which essentially says, it's on the fire engine, let's use that 500 gallons. I pull it, now I have that 500 gallons. And then it kind of depends on which line that they pull. They have different pressures. Because if you give a lot of pressure to a big line, the same amount of pressure as a little line, it's going to overwhelm them. So they have different pressure limits on them. So
Great.
and I actually have like a little.
So it's like a
This is
study
what
sheet?
This is like math. Essentially, you got to do math. So I just look up what size of hose that I want to pull, how long it is, and then what nozzle I have. And then I have equations that I can do, and I actually have some stuff I can write down. So I do the equation, and then that tells me what that line needs to be pumped at. Some of them I already know because I pump them all the time, so I have them in my head. But sometimes when they're either, very long or we have a very big fire, then I have to do some math.
Okay.
Firefighter Mickey, did Noah wanted to know how long the fire engine is? Did you say that?
What is it?
Noah wanted to know how long the fire engine is.
That's a great question. I think it's 35 feet long.
Okay. Pretty long.
Yeah.
Thank you. And when you put on the mask, I know Max had asked, and when you're putting on the mask, did you talk about how the mask works?
You can go over there. We can talk about it.
Okay.
So So we can't just go into burning buildings, right? Because then we can't breathe. So we need to put on something that enables us to be able to breathe in there. So we have this mask right here, which you saw me put on. And then we have a pack right here. All right. So we call this an SCBA pack. So this right here is compressed air.
It's not oxygen?
Yeah, it's not oxygen.
Oh.
So it's like the air that we breathe?
It's like the air that we breathe. And literally we have a compressor. Literally all the compressor does is it takes air that we're breathing now and then it just compresses it, okay?
Squeezes it into that bottle.
Okay.
How long does that bottle last for you to breathe?
Yeah, that's
that air
Max Jackson asked that same question. How long does your oxygen tank last?
Yeah, and you can tell Max. I remember Max because I like that name and I liked his question. It was a good question.
Okay.
That's a great question, Max. Well, if I was just to walk circles around this bay, this thing would last me about 45 minutes. If I'm just sitting down doing nothing, it could last me a long time, like an hour and a half. However, if I'm running or sprinting, it could last me 20 to 30 minutes. So it's dependent on your consumption, so how much you're using.
So just like when you're running and you're kind of breathing harder, same idea as if you're working harder at a fire or something, it's going to use up faster.
Yep, and it's also based on sometimes size, or some people just breathe more. So sometimes they don't last as long in the fire before they have to and then switch their bottle.
Thank you.
I heard you were a runner, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, have to get that exercise in, just like the kids want to know what kind of exercise you have to do. I have to keep my exercise up so I can keep up with those kids.
Do the students at your school, do they exercise too?
Yeah, we have a great PE teacher at our school, and there's a morning running program, and there's usually in the spring, we have a running team as well, which we obviously can't get together for that right now, but we're gonna figure out some exercise stuff for them to do. And they've been getting exercise lessons from their PE teacher each week.
Good. Great. Do you have any other questions for us?
I think I'm trying to look through them. They did so many questions. Here was one from Willa. She wanted to know, have you ever saved someone you knew?
Have I ever saved someone I knew?
Yeah.
I've never saved them, but I've helped people that I know. I would say, I know somebody that I showed up to their house and it was on fire. And then I think I've been on a few aid calls with people that I knew. But I wouldn't say that I've ever actually saved anyone that I know. Just help
someone though. Zoe wanted to know, why do you stay low when you're going in? It says, she wrote, why do you stay low? Because is that where the fire starts most of the time?
Well, that's a great question. That is a really good question. So we stay low. Doesn't matter where the fire is. Heat rises. So I don't know if you've ever boiled water or something. So the steam comes up, right?
Yeah.
So heat rises. So in a fire, it doesn't matter where the fire is. It's gonna rise. So you want to stay low because the higher up you are, the hotter it is. And I've been in fires before where it's completely clear on bottom, but you stand up even a little bit and your ears are burning. So it's really important to stay low. That's where the best oxygen is and best visibility.
And you know what, Mr. Wolf, I was thinking, there are a lot of good questions about fire safety and what to do in a fire. And I could talk and we could talk. So maybe if you want, in a couple weeks, we could revisit the station and we could have another firefighter talk to us about home safety with fires and just different things, especially with the summer coming up and different types of things that your students can be safe. That's something for you to think about.
Okay, thank you. That's awfully kind of you. Thanks. What was I going to ask you? Here's one. We were on a fire truck. Madeline would like to know, what's the most fun job on the fire truck?
Oh, the most fun job? I would have to say it's driving the fire engine. I love driving. I love turning on the lights. I like the people get out of my way. That's really fun. So I really enjoy that. I really do enjoy doing math equations. So when we have a fire or something like that, I enjoy filling, just figuring out what I need to pump at, how much more water I need, or things like that. So I would say the best job is driving.
Lieutenant Lowen said that the fire truck doesn't drive like a normal car, though. You don't have to run and get the keys. Is that correct, firefighter?
Yeah, that's correct. So for this, we actually have buttons. So there's certain buttons that we turn on in a certain order.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fan's gonna go on, so.
Oh,
That's okay. Yep, that's right.
So this thing's now ready to start. So we turn it on in a certain button order, essentially.
So just push it, huh?
Yeah, they just push the button and the lights go on, and it's kind of a startup sequence for the engine, because there's a lot of equipment on the engine, and there's a lot of lights and a lot of power that it needs to operate.
Yeah. And
then there's also a plug that gets used to keep the battery nice and charged.
We plug this in, it's charging all of our equipment right now, or a lot of our equipment at least, so that when we end up on an extrication or something like that, all of our equipment's topped off.
Yep.
Wow. So much going on there. It's really like a big computer, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
All right, thank you. All right. Let's see. Lieutenant Lowen, are you near that oxygen? So we talked about those oxygen tanks and how long they last. Are you near that area that you had told?
Oh, yep. Yep, and they're not oxygen tanks, they're air tanks.
Air
so
tanks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fine.
You said that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we did talk about those, and they last anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, just
Right.
depending on how long it goes. But why don't you show the machine that we use to fill it up? Oh, and actually, why don't you tell the students what Josh is doing?
Yeah, so Josh was probably in a really big fire recently, and he used his equipment. So he had to separate a couple of the layers that we talked about earlier to wash it. Now that it's all dry and everything, he's putting all the layers back together so that he's ready to go for the next fire. Yeah.
What happens if there's a fire and his suit is in the wash?
Well, we each are assigned 2 pairs. So we have
gotcha.
2 sets of gear. And I've been on ships where we've run 3 big fires. And in that case, we just have to use gear that maybe has smoke on it until our other gear is dried. So you want to see the compressor?
Yeah, that's. Oh, did we show them the hose tower?
Yes. This is the compressor that puts air into our bottles. So this is the hose tower. So if we go on a really big fire, something like that.
I'm sorry, what is this?
This is a hose tower. So if we go on a really big fire and our hose gets dirty, then we wash it and then we hang it up in here.
Whoa,
and
that's
then we have this rope right here. So we put the hose right here and then we just pull it up. And on the very top, we have somebody that climbs up there and then they hang the hose on the hooks up there.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Wolf, I was thinking we could maybe head back to the apparatus. There was a question that
Yeah, please.
One of your students had about burn camp. Who was that person?
Let me look through here. That was, I think it was Stella. Stella, what is burn camp like?
Sit down.
What is burn camp like?
Good question, Stella.
That is a great question. And I think that you asked a great person for that. When I was 4, I was involved in a really, really bad car accident. And I got burned really bad. So I was in the burn unit for a little bit. And because of that injury, I had a lot of scars. And obviously I still have the scars now. And my mom was reading an article in the newspaper one day about a camp for kids with really bad burn scars. So I ended up going to that camp when I was 7. And I went there pretty much my entire childhood. So the camp, it's a bunch of kids with different sorts of burn injuries. and they have swimming there, they have hiking, they have campfire,
Oh, wow.
dance, which is a lot of fun. And it's just a place for kids that have scars and stuff can go swimming and not worry about other kids teasing them or asking them questions about their burn scars. So it's just kind of a safe place, and they can talk to other kids that have had similar accidents and stuff.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I'm so happy that they had that. We read an article about a camp like that in California. Where was the camp that you went to?
So the camp that I went to, and actually now I'm a volunteer, and
Oh,
my awesome department actually comes up every year and volunteers with me. And that's actually just up in North Bend. It's Camp Waskowitz.
Oh, okay.
It's up there, and we just do it for 1 week every year, and it's a lot of fun. And sometimes we'll even, my fire department will put together events throughout the year so that those kids, maybe burn camps that were like only safe places they have, we do events throughout the year so that they can have other outlets and times where they get to be with kids that they feel accepted around.
It's really cool. And you volunteer there. It's like the whole circle from you have the experience and the community and the support from that, and now you're giving back. That's really cool. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Wolf, do you have any other questions for Mickey as we wrap things up?
Yeah, let me check. I know that there was a question from Noah. We have a couple Noahs, and he wanted to know what's the difference between a paramedic and a medic?
Well, no, the difference between a paramedic and a medic, where I work, there actually isn't a difference. So
Okay.
we do have a difference in that we have EMTs, which is to every firefighter that works in South King Fire and Rescue, including myself, we're all EMTs. So we can hook up that AED that shocks people. We can hook people up to O2, and then give just a few drugs, very basic drugs, if somebody's hurt. A paramedic, or sometimes we just call them medics, they can give a lot of different drugs that can actually get your heart to start, drugs that can put you to sleep, drugs that can actually wake you up. They can do a lot of that stuff. And where I work, they are not firefighters. So their whole job is to be good at doing saving lives. And like for, I would say, medical emergencies, that's their specialty. Maybe if you get like cut or something really badly and you're bleeding out, all they do is study how to save people's lives.
Okay. May I ask you, Irene wanted to know, you said that you can volunteer as early as 18, and then as far as applying to be a firefighter, you should be 21 years old, graduate from school. She wanted to know, Irene wanted to know, how long do you have to train to be a firefighter? Or what is entailed, what's involved in the training?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, typically it's about 6 months. So I know that when I got hired, there was 3 months that I had to be at the academy, which means that you're with other departments and that you're learning the basic skills of being a firefighter. And then 3 months after that, I was back in my own department, learning how we run fires, learning how we do certain things. So that was 6 months. As for training never stops. We're always learning new things. We're always taking new classes and keeping fresh on that stuff.
Sounds like teaching. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to think, Lieutenant Lowen, did you notice there are other questions? There were so many and it's jumping around.
Yeah, no, it's good. We actually covered quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it's good.
You guys were fantastic, and I love that you took the time again to do this. We so appreciate everything you're doing in the community, not only during this pandemic, but just all the time, because we know that firefighters don't just go to fires, as you were talking about, injuries or car accidents. And so thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks so much for telling us about fire camp up at Camp Waskowitz. That was really neat. Thank you for the service, both of you, Lieutenant Lowen and Firefighter Mickey.
Thanks, appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And Mr. Wolf, if your students wanted to send a thank you note to Firefighter Mickey, The address is Station 62,
Station 62,
Firefighter Mickey,
Firefighter Mickey,
31617, First
31
Avenue South,
Okay, 31617 First Avenue South,
Federal Way, Washington.
Federal Way. And what's
Yep.
the zip code in Federal Way, Lieutenant Lowen?
9407.
No. 980. It's 98003.
I think Firefighter Mickey must live by me because that's about the same zip code as mine.
Yeah, I lived in Tacoma so long. You need zip code. You ask me, I'm like, I know. There's like 5 there in my head right
I know. 9840 something. I know. I think Lowell is 98403. Okay, thank you. I might get that from you again, Lieutenant Lowen, and maybe make sure we'll have the correct spelling of her name too.
That sounds great.
Well,
One
thank
last
you
thing.
so much, and thanks you for this virtual field trip. We really love that when we can read and learn about things, but you guys made it all real for us today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. One last thing for you, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah.
So each of you guys is going to be getting one of these awesome firefighter pens from your teachers. Whenever school starts again, I'm sorry I can't promise you when that's going to be, but when you do end up back at school, there'll be one of these guys waiting for you.
That's so cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good day, third graders, and make sure you tell your teachers how awesome they are.